Since it is the month of October and the season of Halloween, I thought it would be fun to bring back something that I did for the first time last year, and that is Halloween-themed action figure reviews. And to kick things off, today we are going to be taking a look at the Transformers Studio Series Deluxe Class Scorponok from the Rise of the Beast movie. And the reason why I chose Scorponok in particular is because, one, he is an insecticon, and two, he looks like a creepy monster, especially with his design, right? So that does kind of fit the theme of Halloween, I suppose. Alright, with all that said, before I talk about the accessories and the figure, let's take a quick look at the packaging that he comes in. And as you can see, it is the same style box that we see for most Studio Series figures, but just smaller because this is a deluxe class. And for this front side here, you do have your window cut out where you can see the figure. When it was once inside the packaging, you have a CGI render of Scorponok in his Scorpion mode. And this is number 107 from the Studio Series line. You also got the movie logo up top. And if you did not watch my unboxing video last week, I did find this at Ross for $8. So there's that. And on this side of the box, you have another CGI render of Scorponok with the Transformers Authentic logo. And on this side of the box, this is what I call the indicator, because if you are somebody that keeps the packaging, or you're an inbox collector and you store these on a shelf like a book, this side of the packaging not only gives you the number, it also shows you the name of the line and a CGI render of the character, so you know who you have and who you don't have. So that's pretty cool. And on the back side of the box, you have a render of the action figure in his robot mode as well as his scorpion mode. And it requires 20 steps to transform. And of course, it does come with a backdrop, as most studio figures do come with. So here is the cardboard backdrop right here. It is a more smaller scale version of the one that came with Cheetor. And as you can see, it's like more zoomed into the background compared to that one, I think. So there is that. And here is the figure on this little cardboard display thing. Yeah, I don't really use these backdrops. I don't think anyone does, but they do come with one, so there's that. And that is pretty much the packaging and the backdrop. And now let's put the figure back on the table and talk about the accessories that he comes with. He only comes with one accessory, which this is one of those cases where, do you classify this as an accessory? So it's his tail, okay? His tail can come off. It could be removed. So his tail can be used as a weapon for him to hold. So if you move this articulation joint right here and peg it onto his arm, it can act as some sort of whip-like weapon, right? With this sort of dagger at the end. Now, if you don't want to use this as a weapon, you can have this plugged into the back part of him, so it becomes his tail, even in his robot mode, as you can see right here, right? And then, of course, in his alt mode, this serves as the tail for his scorpion form. So it's one of those cases where it's like, is this an accessory or is this just part of the figure? So, you know, I don't know what to classify this as. But nevertheless, the sculpting of his tail is very nicely detailed, as you can see. I really love what they did with all this stuff here. It does remind me a lot of like the Bayverse designs with some of the Transformer designs from back in the day with all these sort of scales and stuff. It is painted in a sort of like gunmetal gray sort of look, which is nice. And then the transition from this gray color into the purple is also really good right here as well. And right on the top here, you do have that sharp claw thing or knife, right, of his tail end right there, which is pretty cool. So I do like that. And also the fact that this tail has articulation is a nice touch, because in some cases, sometimes the tails for certain action figures don't have articulation. But with this one, I like the fact that it has the articulation, because, you know, this is a scorpion after all, so you kind of want to angle his tail forward if you want to try to do that whole attacking motion, right? So that's pretty cool. And there is the tail accessory, and I'm going to put this back onto the figure because it does work for the aesthetics as well. So there is that. And for the other thing that he comes with, it is, of course, the instruction manual. You can't have a Transformer without the instruction manual to show you how to transform this figure, as you can see right here. And here is the backside as well. So yeah, there's that whole thing. And I will show how to transform this guy into his alt mode later in the video. It's very easy, very simple. So yeah. With all that said, let's talk about the aesthetics of this figure. And the reason why I think it looks like a monster is because as we zoom in on the figure, look at his face. It's a very creepy looking face with these teeth coming out of his, bottom part of his mouth. And that is not something you want to see when you wake up in the morning, right? I mean, it's freaking hideous looking. And also, he has like these sharp parts, right? Like these are the claws for his scorpion mode as his shoulder armor. So it's like, it's very creepy looking. Like the fact that he's also like tinier than the usual Transformer in terms of size. Like imagine having this like, chasing after you. Like that's just not something you want. That's like straight out of a nightmare. But let's focus on the sculpt here. So for his head sculpt, you can see how he has like 4 eyeballs, which is very realistic to like certain insects having like multiple eyeballs. The best example is like a spider. A spider has 8 eyeballs. Why is that even necessary? I don't know the, biology of spiders, but the fact that they have like 8 eyeballs is kind of terrifying, right? Like us humans, we only have 2 eyes, which is all we need. But like these guys, they got like multiple eyes. So that's already freaking spooky right there. And also, that mouth, right? Like that is not a normal looking mouth. That just looks terrifying. Like I do not want that in my face in the morning if something like this were like, spooking me or something, right? So, yeah, that right there is already enough to give you nightmares. He does have this sort of nice design here with some details, this gold part right here, which is interesting. And one thing I will say right away, did he even transform in the movie? I don't even remember because I watched this movie like 2 weeks ago and I already forgot what the heck happens in most of the movie because there were just certain parts of this movie that I did not like. So my mind just completely tuned off. The only scene that I remember was he shows up in his scorpion mode only to get bashed by, I think, Primal, right? Yeah, that's it. I don't remember him turning into a robot at all. So there is this whole thing right here. So maybe his robot mode is based on concept art, which isn't bad though. It looks pretty good. Okay, so there's his torso. You have his waist area down here with some of those more, details, like it's like armor. You have his arms, as we pointed out with the arm shoulders. And then you have his arms right here, which do look pretty detailed as well. And then his giant hands with the fingers or claws, whatever you want to call these. He got like only 4 fingers. And then for his legs, he does have his knee guards right here, which are spiky, so you don't want to run into those. He has his feet down here where, they're very robotic looking feet, but you got like these weird things on the side. But overall, a lot of the details, like these parts right here, very much pays homage to that Bayverse design, right? Like the entirety of this figure looks like it was based on the Bayverse designs of the Transformers from back in the day. And also, Scorponok was in the 2007 movie, and also I think the second one as well. So, I mean, he was just a scorpion, but like, still, it's pretty cool that this was like an homage to that era of Transformer movies in that sense. Now, when we go to the backside of him, this is where it kind of looks like a backpack, but you don't have to make it look this way. I just chose to put his, legs and his alt mode onto the back like this because they do get in the way of articulation with his arms, which is not fun. So this is why it looks this way. And then his tail, as you can see, if you keep it on the backside, it can go like this. But there are some details here as well. So let's just move this all downward like that. And actually, let's pop off the tail now because this actually isn't going to help. So for his shell part right here, when he turns into his alt mode, you can see how this is acting like a front top layer shell because if you know anything about a scorpion, they do have shell-like armor to protect themselves from other like sort of insects or maybe sometimes even birds. I'm not too sure, but it's basically what we like to call a desert crab because they do have claws similar to crabs, right? So this is really cool that he has this sort of shell part right here for his backside. He does have the Predacon logo right there, as you can see. Pretty cool. And I like the whole mix mash of purple and gray colors here. That's nice to see as well. So yeah, there's all that. And then for the back part of his legs, you have more of these sort of details in the sculpt. So there it is. The colors do allow him to stand out more, which is something that I do like because the whole purple and gunmetal sort of mix here is pretty cool. And that's pretty much the aesthetics for this guy. Let's move on to the articulation now. So let's start with his head sculpt. So for his head sculpt here, he can move this head outward like this, which is not something you should do because it's supposed to click in. So the articulation for his head is not the best, as you can see, right? Like it just moves up and down, but like you can't really turn his head a whole lot, or you can, but it just does that. You can't look to his sides like that, right? It's kind of weird. So articulation with the head sculpt isn't the greatest. For his arms, he does have the ability to turn them 360 like that, but he does run into, of course, those legs on the back, so you do want to be careful. And he does have bicep swivel right here. He does have articulation. His arms can hinge pretty much all the way up like that because this is meant for his transformation. He does have articulation in his hands, right? The little ball joint right there. So there's that. And for his waist, he does have waist articulation, basically swiveling like this. He cannot lean forward or backwards. And then for his legs, he can do the splits, which is pretty good. As you can see right there. He can also kick out pretty high up, I think. Yeah, I'd say that's pretty good. So there's that. And then, oh, sometimes this happens too. Like it just pops off. So you do want to be careful. And then for his feet down here, he does have a little, ball joint that it's connected to so he can move his feet out like that. So there is pretty much most of the articulation on this guy. It's very simplistic. So there is that whole thing. And then, of course, I already showed the articulation with his tail. So that's pretty much all you can do. Before I get into the comparisons, let me just show what his tail looks like as a weapon accessory. So this joint right here, as you can see, just bend it this way like this, right? And then you can put it into either side of his arms because there are portholes right here for this side and this side right here as well. And what you do is you just do this, very simple, and then you can put his fingers in there, right, to make it look like it's a part of him. And there you go. You got him with his weapon accessory. So it kind of acts like some sort of whip or something. Whatever you want to see this as. But, it's kind of weird how it works this way. But there it is. So you can give him weapons, right? So there is Scorponok with his tail as a weapon. And I'm going to put him right here. And let's bring in some figures to compare him to. So let's start off with Cheetor, and as you can see, he is taller than Scorponok, but now you can have Cheetor fight Scorponok as something you can do on your shelf, so that's an option for a display right there. Here he is next to Battle Trap, and Battle Trap is on Scorponok's side, as we know in the story of this movie, so these two would be working together. And for the last comparison, here he is next to the Optimus Prime from this movie. And as you can see, Optimus is taller than him. But that doesn't really matter because you can have Scorponok jumping onto Optimus like he's attacking him as something you can do with your display for an action scene. Or whatever other characters you have from this movie line. So those are options right there. And that's pretty much all the comparisons for today's review. And now on to the last step, which is showing the transformation for Scorponok. So, as I said, his transformation is very simple. So you can just take the tail off for now. You don't even need that. And what we want to do first is you want to rotate his arms this way, right? And you want to bend all of this upward so you can get his hands to be like this, right? As you can see with that. Do the same thing on this side. Bend all the way up. Make sure his fingers are pressed all the way into his shoulder. So those will form the claws. Now lift his head upward like this. So then now you already got this front part done. And what you are going to do now is you're going to lift this entire torso part upward. And you're going to get the arms to move out of the, part that they're connected to, because this is going to allow him to have more of an extension with his claw arms. And then the next thing you're going to do is you're going to take his legs, pop all of this, right? As you can see what I'm doing. And then you're going to rotate all that around so it faces backward. Do the same thing like this, right? Rotate all of this backward because these are going to serve as the back parts of his legs. And then you're going to move this entire waist part inside of this, right? You're going to make sure to match these parts right here. As you can see, right there, the little tab goes right in there. Hopefully I'm showing that correctly. You might have to rotate his legs a little bit, but it should go inside. Okay, there it is. There it is. That's the first thing you do. So you want to do that, and then you want to do the same thing on this side of his legs as well. You kind of want to move that in. You want to align it properly so you can push that in. See a little tab right there? It's supposed to go in. There we go. So there you have it. And then now you want to close his torso like that. And then you can move his legs downward. And then now you want to center his legs back like this so you can form the back part of his legs. Let me just try to do this correctly because this is like a hassle sometimes. All right, I think I got everything. So now everything should look like this, because after you do this part of the legs, all you do is you basically pull everything down so you can kind of like, you know, rotate everything, you know, get it aligned in this sort of way, and then you can move these extra legs down now, which you just do that. Same thing on this side, and let me just fix everything so I can get it to look like has multiple legs. There you go. So now the final thing you need to do is put the tail in, and you have his alt mode. And there you have Scorponok in his scorpion mode. It looks pretty cool, right? As a scorpion, that's how big he is in his alt mode. So there's that. And let's zoom back in for some details. So yeah, I do like the fact that he has these claw arms right here with these sort of things, which looks kind of like the 2007 design, right? Like, I guess these are supposed to be blasters maybe. And yeah, you can have him fighting some of the other characters on your shelf, either in this mode or in his robot mode. Either way works. It is a very cool design here, and I think this is a really fun deluxe class figure. And I'm really happy that I found this at Ross because, you know, I did not even know they made a figure for Scorponok. So there he is, and that is the transformation. And that is going to do for today's review. If you found today's review of the Scorponok figure informative, do give this video a like. If you want to subscribe to the channel for more action figure content and whatever else I do on here, it would be much appreciated. And with that said, take care, and I will see you in the next video.